The leftists that now dominate the Democrat Party hate just about everything associated with American tradition, from flags to monuments to even Christianity, which is why it was bitterly ironic that Joe Biden should communicate his latest ideological purge during an appearance at the National Prayer Breakfast.
We just have to open our eyes. We've just witnessed images that we've never imagined, images that now we'll never forget. A violent assault on the U.S. Capitol, assault on our democracy, on our Capitol. A violent attack that threatened lives and took lives. And we know now we must confront and defeat political extremism, white supremacy, and domestic terrorism.
Well, using the Capitol Hill riots, of course, as the justification, I knew it was only a matter of time until Biden and his administration would turn their sights on the U.S. military. Now, Biden's Pentagon chief has announced, we mentioned this briefly last night when it broke, a stand down of all U.S. military forces in order to scour the ranks for so-called extremists. Now, Lloyd Austin, the new Secretary of Defense, hinted at a possible purge during his confirmation hearing.
I will fight hard to stamp out sexual assault and to rid our ranks of racists and extremists. The job of the Department of Defense is to keep America safe from our enemies. But we can't do that if some of those enemies lie within our own ranks.
Of course, well, what he really meant then, and what he would like to do now, is rid the military of all strong conservatives and, of course, Trump supporters. Now, think of all the challenges America's facing at this moment, with the rise of China especially. And this is what our defense chief is focused on? Now, Reuters is reporting that the Biden administration doesn't even have a plan for how to conduct its so-called review or what the stand down would even mean or look like. But one thing is for sure, if this is substantive and not symbolic, it will do grave damage to our military preparedness and morale. Our men and women in uniform have been asked to sacrifice multiple tours, many of them, for so long, and oftentimes ridiculous engagements, idiotic wars. And now the Biden administration rewards them by casting them as potential domestic terrorists, ticking time bombs of white supremacy? You can always count on think tank generals whose salaries are funded by rich donors to side with the Democrats on an issue like this. Like Thomas Clauditz, a retired Army brigadier general who told Fortune magazine he's really worried about the enemy within, saying, "We're probably talking about thousands across the Department of Defense. Many of them will have already run their mouth, put things on social media." Now, people like him will claim that it's fine for defense personnel to have strong political views that are conservative, but in practice, we already know how this is all going to play out. Look at how fast the National Guard moved against its own ranks after the Capitol riot. Apparently vetting more than 25,000 National Guardsmen, removing a dozen or so from inaugural duties, some on dubious grounds, by the way. So you post something on Facebook about, I don't know, standing for the national anthem at football games, and the next thing you know, you could be labeled a white nationalist. You text a friend about how you think Trump stood for the forgotten man and woman, and you're practically a KKK member. If Democrats were really concerned about stamping out extremism, they'd be looking in the mirror. How many wacky, incendiary, inflammatory, defamatory, hateful things have been said by their members over the past 5 years, or heck, just over the past month? We should devote just an entire show just to left-wing extremism, which runs the gamut from Antifa to BLM to open border zealots who think we're all living on stolen land. And where were Biden and friends when Islamic radicals infiltrated our military ranks during the War on Terror? Now, thankfully, some of these attacks were thwarted, but many innocent Americans were also killed.
The Muslim convert who killed a U.S. Army recruiter in Little Rock, Arkansas.
The Army private arrested and charged with allegedly plotting an attack at Fort Hood. PFC Nasser Abdo was arrested at a motel in Killeen, Texas.
Police say a Muslim American, Mohammed Abdulaziz, opened fire at 2 military centers, killing 4 Marines and a sailor.
The FBI is investigating the Pensacola shooting as an act of terror, while the gunman's time in Saudi Arabia is being examined.
Okay, sometimes we forget that all of this happened. Where were the calls for the immediate vetting of all troops with connections to Islamic extremist groups? Now, I was doing this on radio every day during most of this time period. And not only did Democrats not demand that type of vetting, they accused us of Islamophobia for even raising concerns.
Racially profiling predominantly Muslim neighborhoods. It's wrong, it's counterproductive, it's dangerous.
Republican hopefuls need to come out and be against this kind of Islamophobia.
It's our responsibility to reject proposals that Muslim Americans should somehow be treated differently.
It would be an even greater tragedy if our diversity becomes a casualty here.
Well, diversity, unless, of course, it means respecting the opinions and beliefs of conservatives or devout Christians or other religious denominations. Instead of lecturing us about the importance of tolerance, like they did back then, leftists are gleefully calling for an ideological cleansing of the ranks.
What do you make about this through line of military service and white supremacy?
I was thinking the Guard is 90-some-odd%, I believe, male. Only about 20% of white males voted for Biden.
Anybody who cannot pledge allegiance to their mission and may be pulled by other views, they need to be removed from the Guard.
Safety has to be our first priority.
Safety for whom? It's certainly not going to make Americans safer having the military turn to an arm of the DNC. What about the military members of faith or who vote Republican? I mean, you heard the reference to, oh, they're all men, white men. So if you're a white male Christian, maybe you voted Republican, maybe even like Trump, you're immediately suspicious. You're a suspect. How are any of those people supposed to feel safer now? Of course they're not going to feel safe. So what's the real goal here? Preventing any dissent in the country when their policies slowly but surely are depriving us of liberty and prosperity? Well, do the Democrats plan more lockdowns for coronavirus mutations? The requirement for vaccine certificates for travel? Are they worried that members of the military are going to side with the Constitution instead of crazy social justice warriors who want to remake America and even remake the military? Finally, a message to the Republicans like Liz Cheney. This is your opportunity to show everyone that you'll fight harder against the Democrats than you do against Donald Trump. Refuse to allow a single U.S. taxpayer dollar to fund this ideological and un-American purge of the U.S. military. Or expect a lot of us to push for steep cuts in military spending. After all, why should we fund an organization that Democrats plan to use not to protect us, but to restrain us in order to protect themselves and their grip on power? And that's the angle.